everyone, you're watching the Asian American Herald, a new media network featuring the Asian Americans in the capital region of New York. You can also watch a recording of this show and all of our previous episodes from our Facebook page, Asian American Herald of the Capital Region. My name is Shruthina Tanmai, and I'm a student at the Fashion Institute of Technology and writer who was born and raised in the capital region. Tonight, we're honored to speak with Pooja Dutta and Abhinithi Wagh, both recent graduates from college from the University of Arizona and the University at Buffalo, respectively. Not only do they deserve great praise for earning bachelor's degrees, but also for pushing through during a rather tough and uncertain time, no matter the roadblocks or disappointments they faced. So, Pooja and Abhinithi, welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Of course. So for those of you tuning in live, please feel free to submit any questions via the chat box. Ashok Adikopla will be monitoring the chat, and then we will address your questions at the end of the show if time permits. Cool. Okay, so I'd like to start by asking you both to take a minute to introduce yourselves a little bit more and then tell our viewers about your major and then any of your additional interests or what you took part of while you were in college. Pooja, if you'd like to start.
Yeah, sure. So, hi, my name is Pooja, and I just graduated from the University of Arizona, and I majored in marketing and had a minor in film and television. So while I was in school, I was the president of the Business of Entertainment Club, and in that, we network with professionals in the entertainment industry. So we go on trips, have speakers visit us, things like that. During my free time on the weekends, I'd work on student film sets just for fun. So I'd help around as crew. And then I was also executive assistant at an independent film production company. So for the past 4 years. So that's kind of how I kept myself busy. And yeah, so I'm hoping to pursue a career in entertainment, no surprise. So I'll be moving to Los Angeles this summer, and I'm looking to get into television development and or marketing.
Wow, that's a lot. You're very involved. That's a lot of fun. What's like the most fun or memorable project that you worked on?
Yeah, so for my honors thesis, I actually wrote and directed my own film. So I had my own short film that I was working on for the past year. And so I think that was definitely the most memorable because it was the most close to home, and I had all my close family and friends work on it. So yeah, that was definitely the best project I worked on.
Yeah, that sounds like. Did you shoot it at your house?
So we shot it in multiple locations. So in California, we were in like Malibu, Huntington Beach, and then in Arizona, we shot it at one of my friend's house. So yeah, that was definitely a long process, and it took us a long time, but it was really good. So I'm happy with the end result.
I'm sure it was very rewarding at the end. Watching it all come together.
Definitely.
Hey, Abhinithi, would you like to go?
Yeah, I mean, I have not done nearly maybe even a third of what you've done, but I'm Abhinithi, and my major was biological sciences at University at Buffalo, and I am pre-optometry, so I will be doing an MS in molecular biology, hopefully at San Francisco State University this fall, and then going on to optometry school later on. This last 4 years, I pretty much just studied biology. I did research at Wadsworth over the summer between my freshman and sophomore year, and it was all very rewarding as well. But again, nothing as insane as your 4 years have been. But it's been fun.
No, that's great. Were you involved in any clubs while you were at Buffalo?
Yeah, so I actually I used to work at UBIT, which is stereotypical, but other than that, I also did write at the Spectrum, which is an independent newspaper for UB. So
that's cool. Did you was there a certain topic that you wrote about, or was it kind of just?
It was pretty general. I wrote mostly for the features desk. So if there were events going on around school, there was a series called Humans of UB, which is very similar to Humans of New York. Mm-hmm. We started that series around when I joined the Spectrum, and I did a few human interest stories that way too.
Cool. That sounds like fun. Well, yeah, I mean, congratulations to both of you. That's
Thank you.
really such a huge accomplishment, and I'm sure you both feel a little bit lighter now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No more homework, so I'm happy.
That's true. That's true. So, as I mentioned previously, you both did graduate during a particularly difficult time, which I'm sure posed certain difficulties you hadn't anticipated would cross your path. Can you speak on some of those barriers that you faced or are even currently facing?
Yeah, sure. I'll start.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So I think the hardest thing, like for me initially, was definitely just the fact that I knew I was never going to see any of my friends for a while. I just remember coming back from spring break and like all of my friends had moved out. Suddenly everyone was home, and just knowing that the last time we had school was the last time I was ever going to be in a classroom ever. So I think that was something that was really hard to accept. And even just, I think the difference between like college and like high school seniors, because I mean, we both have our different challenges, is that I know personally for me, I'm not going to be pursuing any higher education as of right now. So I know a lot of people who, you know, this is the last time they're ever going to be in school and they're ever going to be a student. So I feel like we've all just been kind of thrown into adulthood and just didn't really get to close that other chapter in the right way. So I think that's just kind of been a tough part, as well as looking for jobs. I had a lot of opportunities taken away because of the pandemic, because I was kind of in the middle of the whole job search.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those I think are the two main challenges for me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, definitely want to agree with like how surreal it felt. Like it just got really real really quick.
Yeah.
Like, oh crap, like we're already thinking about next year, like career stuff, all that. Like it's not as immediate for me as it is for you, because I am gonna go on to do an MS and all that stuff. But it's still stressful because I'm like, oh, how am I gonna move like to the other end of the country when this is all over? Fall is online also right now for them. So I have to figure out the logistics of everything. And not to mention like friends, especially like you said, like a lot of my friends in Buffalo, like I'm probably not going to see them again for a while unless like we meet up. And like it's just sad because like you go from like living next to someone and like being in that environment with so many friends, and then it's just like kind of taken away from you almost. So yeah, mostly just like logistical challenges for me, and like missing my friends, and figuring out next steps, especially financially, just like as a student now, because like the economy is not good. So
yeah. What was like the initial thought that went through your head when you found out that your senior year, like it was done, you're being sent home? Like what was the first thing that you like either worried about, thought of, or just like crossed your mind?
You can go ahead. Yeah.
I don't even know what I thought. I think I was just in shock because it just didn't seem like it was real. Because I remember I was abroad when all of this kind of went down, and I just remember like waking up to a million texts and phone calls from family and friends saying like everything's online now, the semester's over basically, and I was just kind of in denial and in shock, I think, for a while. But yeah, I think I just like I was mainly sad about not seeing my classmates, just because, like you said, there's going to be a lot of people who I just never see again because, you know, there's like people in passing in the hall and in our classes, our cohorts. And I mean, like we've been in the same classes for the past 4 years. So it's just kind of sad not seeing those familiar faces every day. But yeah.
Yeah, same thing. It's literally just crazy. I honestly, the day we found out was like March 11th. Like I remember the day because like Cuomo was like, okay, all SUNYs are going to be online for the rest of the semester. And like, that was like right before our spring break. And so we were like, oh, we might not even come back because it's just spring break. We'll just end up staying here. No one actually thought that would happen because people were like, even though it's online, we might just be able to stay on campus and like it just all kind of happened really fast. And it was just all, I think the first thing in my mind was like fear that it would get really bad and that I would have to like end up staying here and like not have the last 2 months of my senior year. And like, obviously, I'm sure this happened to you too. You kind of envisioned like an ending to your senior year. Like you're going to hang out with friends, make time for them. Like now that you don't really have that many tests and stuff, and like finals are a thing too, obviously. So like it was just a whole lot. It was very overwhelming. That's like the first feeling that I had when I found out.
Yeah. Definitely. That's very understandable. Do you feel that graduating in a situation like this has changed or even clarified your goals or aspirations for the near future?
I feel like it's definitely changed like my idea of my whole timeline, because that's just been thrown out the window at this point.
Yeah.
I think that we all, or at least for me, I just had a clear vision in my mind, like, okay, I'll be moving out this day, finding a job at this point. But now I just think everything's forced me to slow down a lot more. And, you know, jobs, it is what it is. There aren't really a lot of opportunities right now, like especially in entertainment. So I'm just kind of slowing down and trying to just kind of see what exactly I want to get into before getting into it. So I think it's been nice to kind of have that time in a way, just because I want to make sure that whatever I, find myself getting into, it's something that like I'm actually like really passionate about and is like the right step for me. But it's just kind of slowed down the whole process. And, I'm trying to accept the fact that it's not going to be as soon as I think it's going to be. Like it's going to take some more time, but eventually I'll like get to where I want to be. So
yeah, and I totally like get the idea of being, or concept of being frustrated when you don't have a timeline. I feel like that's also something I definitely do and map out. Is there any, I don't know, like way that you've tried to cope with not having a timeline? Anything that you've done to be proactive for the future or anything of that sort?
I think like it's cheesy, but I feel like I've just been working on like my own like personal development. So I've just been trying to do a lot more creative things like painting and writing, and just kind of taking that time to like do certain things which I never had the chance to do in like normal life, I guess. And I think that's been really helpful because it showed me like that those types of outlets are really important for me. And so once like normal life resumes, I really want to make sure that I maintain like those activities and those habits, just because I think that they're really important, and just kind of like having that like safe space for yourself to just do whatever, like not think about anything. And so I guess that's been like my main coping mechanism.
Yeah, I mean, that's not cheesy at all. Like, I totally understand. Like, same here. Mostly, like, think that what really helped was, like, mindfulness and stuff. Like, I love meditating and all that kind of stuff, and that, like, really helps me. And definitely, like, artistic outlets, just, like, drawing, or, like, just even, like, getting up and having a project to do throughout the day. Like, it kind of, like, helps me get out of my head to be, like, I don't need to constantly think about the future, especially when it's, like, so unclear right now. And as far as like the has it clarified or changed anything about my career outlook? Not really. I still like plan on doing the same things as I would have done before this happened. It's just like you said, the timeline's just super like unsure right now, like, and logistically just to like see how things will work out.
Yeah. I also don't think that's cheesy at all, and I think that's like a great way to not get yourself like overwork yourself over the things that didn't happen, if that makes sense. Because there's a lot of things that didn't happen. I think that's a really good way to go about it. But, so today, the news coverage has expanded far beyond the pandemic in response to the death of Mr. George Floyd and the issues of racism and injustice in the United States and outside of the United States, of course. But what are your thoughts on the Black Lives Matters movement? And have either of you attended any protests or witnessed them or anything of that sort?
I haven't attended a protest yet, but I am going to be. There's one in Clifton Park that's happening, I think, next week that I'll be attending. So I'll be going to that. But yeah, it's been, I think, a long time coming. I think it's been really powerful on social media, especially just seeing the amount of support and the amount of resources being shared, which I think is really important and super effective, an effective way of utilizing like social media right now as well. But I mean, personally, I'm just trying to do the best I can to be educated and trying to share resources with my friends and family, and, you know, donating, signing petitions. But I think also like the most important thing would be like for me was just like having those conversations with my friends and family, because I think that's kind of where it all stems out of. And so that's kind of the only way I feel like people's mindsets can change on the whole like movement. So yeah, I mean, I support it, and I'm just trying to do the best I can to like be informed about it.
Yeah. Have you found it hard or even uncomfortable to have those types of conversations?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's just kind of difficult for everyone because I think this is just such a traumatic time in general in the world, and there's just so much going on in people's lives. Like, you know, there's a pandemic, there's college childhood ending, and like so many things happening at once that like all of these emotions are just super overwhelming right now. So I think at first when all this kind of started to gain traction, it was really overwhelming for me because like I was angry and sad and just I didn't know, like it was just a lot to take in. But yeah, I totally forgot your question, but but I think you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it has been hard to have those conversations. That's what you were asking. Yes.
Yes. I think you answered that. Yeah.
Yeah, same thing. I support the movement for sure. And I have not seen any of the actual protests happening. And I've just been kind of following it on social media and different places. And definitely there were a few in Buffalo. Like you said, there's one in Clifton Park next week. I think what I learned, what is the most kind of important, like you said, is like having those conversations is like foundational to everything else. Like you can sign petitions, you can donate money, you can do all those like XYZ things that are being sent around social media right now. But ideally, like the main point is to like have those hard conversations. And I think I've also been doing that with my friends and family. And I'm kind of like surprised to find that even like people in my age group, not just like, and also people that I consider my friends, like we have like different viewpoints on different ideas that are kind of being spread around right now.
Yeah.
And like kind of having those conversations where we're like kind of on opposite sides of a certain idea, because it's very like nuanced and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's important to remember that as well, that like it's a very complicated topic. At its base, it's not that like racism is wrong. Obviously, that's definitely true. But the entire issue, when you look at it, when you step back, it's very complex. And I think, again, we should just have those like really difficult conversations, like you said.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of moving parts in different aspects of the issue, like you said. And I think another big part of this issue and like is in general is that there's so much information in regards to the news. And I know especially I've been on Twitter a lot. There's a lot of information, videos, graphics, whatever, on all sorts of social media platforms. So personally, I found it kind of difficult to narrow down where I want to get my information from and what, and like, because there's just so much that it's just very hard to digest all of it at the same time. So how are you two going about that and finding information? And as you said, educating yourselves, because that is like such a big part of making sure this problem doesn't go into future generations and continue like it has for many, many years.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like for me, there is no, it's been hard to know like what the right thing to do is and what the wrong thing to do. It's been really difficult because this is so new. I think just the amount of involvement I've had in this movement is like way different than like any past movements that have happened. So it's just been kind of challenging knowing what the right sources are. And I think for me, you know, everyone's been sharing stuff on social media, and I'll just kind of go along and like look at the sources of like what my friends post, because I know that like my close friends, like I can trust for the most part at least. And so I know that, you know, what they're sharing is probably true. And I'm trying to be as careful and like kind of taking everything like with a grain of salt, because you never really know. But yeah, that's been really hard for me as well. Like, I don't know, like there have been posts where I'm like, okay, do I share this? Do I not? Like, is this good? Is this bad? So I don't, it's hard, but I think also the fact like accepting that it's not going to be perfect, and like I might, you know, I don't know, just knowing that like it's not going to be perfect and I might find like the wrong source or whatever, and knowing that I'll just like make sure I do better. Like if I make a mistake in that sense, then like that's okay. But I totally understand what you mean. Like there's a lot of sources and information, and then people are saying like, oh no, don't do this. Like that's actually wrong. Like don't post the black tile on Instagram. And wait, but I did that. I don't know.
Well, I think like you said, the biggest part about that is making sure that, okay, even if you do post something that is not, that people then later say like, okay, don't post. I think the biggest part is like coming to terms with the fact that, and like agreeing or taking into note that that's like wrong, and then like learning and like, you know what I mean? Just like going back and retracing your actions and just making sure that you learn from that, if that makes sense. Yeah, I think that's like I think that's like a big part.
Right. Yeah, definitely. It's definitely like really hard to keep up with everything, because there's just so much. Yeah. And with the black tile thing, I'm guilty of the same thing. And like when everyone everyone around you does it, like all your close friends do it, you're like, okay, I'm doing this in solidarity, this is going to be helpful. And then you realize like, oh no, it's not. It's kind of clogging up people's feed. It's not allowing them to have information that they need. And like you said, it's just about like educating yourself, and then like kind of backtracking and being like, okay, this is what I need to fix, and then we can move forward from here. The information overload thing, I think the best way I've been kind of getting out of that is like not just trusting like the close friends that I have that post stuff, but like kind of going to like news sources, but again, like you said, with a grain of salt, because the news is not also covering things with the most like non-biased. They are very biased, and they're covering the things that are like super violent, or like something that is like going to be, you know, click worthy or something. And majority of the protests have been peaceful and all that kind of stuff. And like misinformation can be spread really easily on social media. So like I'm kind of afraid about that too. But I think you just have to like educate yourself and keep moving forward, even if you make mistakes. So
yeah. And even like going off of that, I think that like I've also been trying to like follow accounts that are like trustworthy. So like Color of Change, like Black Lives Matter, like those ones, I feel like I can trust those sources, and wherever they like whatever they post, like donation wise, petition wise, like I feel like for the most part it's pretty reliable. So like even in that sense, like making sure that like who I follow is reliable, if that makes sense.
Definitely. But like you said, I like social media, I feel like there's a very good side to it, and there's also, like you said, the spreading of misinformation. But as long as you take it with a grain of salt, I think it's been pretty beneficial to this movement and this time in general. And I'm very happy that like our generation has been so active, when in the past maybe we haven't been as much as we could have. I'm like have you noticed that too? Or that?
it's refreshing to see on Instagram people post something other than themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I remember when I woke up and saw all the black squares, like, or the black tiles, I was just like, I thought it was pretty powerful, like seeing how many people were so like supportive of that. And yeah, I think it's been, good for our generation to see people being active for sure.
Yeah.
It's just a constant learning experience, and this is all so new for all of us. So, we're just trying to constantly, like every day I keep learning new things, and it's been great. Like, I feel like I've learned so much. And also because we are in a pandemic, we're all just kind of sitting at home. We have that time and energy to actually like take it all in. So in a way, like, I think that's made it more effective as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, you said literally everything I was thinking. So yeah, I totally agree 100%. Yeah.
Do you feel that the ideas and changes being called for by protesters, American citizens, and like people around the globe, since there's been protests in Ireland, like London, so many other places, do you think they can be applied to the fields that both of you are entering or planning to enter?
Yes. So, like my field is primarily science, right? STEM. And there is notoriously I don't know notoriously, but for me it is because once my eyes have been open to that, I see it everywhere. There's like this group called ASAP Science. I'm sure you guys have heard of them on YouTube. And I listened to their podcast, and like they had a new podcast recently talking about the science of racism. And in science especially, there's just such a huge bias like against people of color in general. And that's something like we have to like be careful about, especially in science. And I think that they're moving forward with different programs to make sure that, that doesn't happen anymore. But especially in like STEM, like ancestry DNA and all those DNA kits and stuff like that, they are harder for people of color to figure out their like true exact backgrounds, just because they don't have enough samples to test against for people of color. So that's just an example there. So I think it's definitely really relevant for my field, and important going forward too.
Do you think STEM students should be educated more on it when they're in college, or are there already programs in place right now?
They should be way more educated about it. There's a few, but most of them are like women in STEM, because first it was a very male-dominated field, and it still kind of is, but it's getting better. I think they could definitely have more programs in general, just to make sure it's more diversified.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I agree, and it kind of, definitely applies to the entertainment industry as well. I think for me, a huge reason why I wanted to even get into the industry is because I really care about representation, and I hope that with this whole movement, there is more representation in the media and on the screens. I know that like a lot of people that I've worked with, I've kind of had conversations with them, and there's a lot of different like smaller movements now about trying to support more diversity on the screen. And I think that's amazing. And even just seeing how companies react as well, I think has been important for me, because now that I have this time, I really want to make sure that whatever company I'm going to work for in the future, they do support diversity and they do support this movement. So even looking at how companies are reacting has been really eye-opening for me as well. Because I think that's something super important for like anyone looking to get a job in any company or any industry. So yeah, I think it can be applied to almost any industry, really.
Yeah. Do you think the entertainment industry is making progress in terms of being more inclusive? A couple years ago, there was that movement with the Oscars. Oscars So White, right? Like it was acknowledged that was a problem in Hollywood and just like every aspect of the entertainment industry. But do you think it has gotten better since then?
I think it has in certain aspects. I mean, we just saw like Mindy Kaling release a new show called Never Have I Ever with the South Asian actress, and I think that's so much progress already. And so that was a lot. I think that is amazing progress just in that and seeing like a Netflix original promote our stories. And I mean, I still do think though we still have a long way to go, even in like the small amount of the industry that I've worked in. It's just so much of a lack of diversity, and it's just honestly, I think a lack of diverse stories in general, because all like the same story every time. And so I think it's just important that even for those smaller movies, like not even blockbuster big Netflix shows or anything, even in the smaller films and shows, like it's important to share more niche stories and people as well. So I mean, there has been progress for sure, as you can see, but I think that we still got some work to do.
Yeah, and I think niche storytelling and just diverse storytelling is like a good step in. I feel like that's a good way to educate, because entertainment, like film, television, even music videos, like they're so widely consumed by people of all different backgrounds. So that's such a great tool to educate people with, no matter where they are, even like globally.
Yeah, even, I mean, I know that like some stuff that I saw that people were sharing for this whole movement is like documentaries and Netflix shows and podcasts too. So there's a lot of really great ways, I think, to help educate yourself that's not just like reading a book or you know, reading an article. So
yeah,
definitely, yeah.
Okay, so we're out of time for today, but thank you so much for joining us this evening on the Asian American Herald. I'm Shruthina Tanma, and our wonderful guests were Pooja Dutta and Avaniti Wag. The Asian American Herald is a Facebook-based news media outlet dedicated to discussing topics and building community amongst the Asian Americans in the Capital Region. Please send us your story ideas and look for this recording on our Facebook page. Have a good evening, and thank you again.
Thanks for having us.